My name is Debo Onifade. I'm the author of Liberating Nigeria, a guide to winning elections and reviving our country, with forward by Mr. Femi Falana SAN. I've not. I just want to talk a little bit about election and some policy issues today. Uh, so a lot of people, especially among the educated ones in the South, Lagos, keep saying talk about it. Debates a lot. The way people talk. Uh, and I just want to address that a little bit today vis-a-vis policies. Now, the person that impresses me the most among the speakers, in terms of speaking, is Atiku Abubakar, and unfortunately, that is the person that I disagree with the most. And the reason is that he talks solutions. He discusses how. He's the only person that talks about how a lot. But I disagree with almost everything he says regarding policies. But I still better than people that never talk about how. They just talk about the problems. They repeat the problem. They keep reminding us about the problems that we know. And they compare us with other countries in the world. And some don't even want to talk. But I want to talk about Atiku a little bit. And I give a few examples. He talked about education. I've heard him say things like he will hand over the universities to the states to resolve ASU crisis, so federal government doesn't have to, be the one negotiating. And anybody that went to a top school in Nigeria would disagree with that. I went to University of Ibadan. Imagine University of Ibadan being given to Oyo State government to manage. Just think about that. That doesn't make any sense. Or imagine Obafemi Awolowo University being uh, given to Osun State to manage. Osun State that has been owing salaries almost for years. Oyo State, Lautech was shut down for how long? So it doesn't make sense. I talked about education here in my book. I think there's a chapter I focused on education. But it's good the guy talks about solutions. But it's important for us to also debate these solutions and ask Peter Obi, ask Tinubu, Bola Tinubu, ask Rabi Kokaso to talk to us about solutions. So I like Atiku because he talks about solutions, but I disagree with solutions. But at least he talks about solutions. He said he wants to sell NNPC. I think that's not a bad idea, actually. But to who? What is going to be the process of selling NNPC? How are you going to sell Nigeria's assets? Given your background, given your antecedents, can we trust you to sell Nigeria's biggest assets? Those are the questions. If you listen to him about when he talks about when he talks to when he talks about herdsman crisis, you can feel that he's um, I don't want to use the word bias, but you can certainly feel that he supports one group beyond against the other. Or he talks about restructuring. Question: how are you going to restructure? These are the questions I think we should be asking. So, but he's my number one in terms of discussing solutions. Whether you agree with him or not, he talks about solutions. Now, I also like Rabbi Musa Konkanso, not just because he has a PhD. He sounds like a smart person with a lot of experience. So if I'm going to mention number two, he doesn't discuss specific solutions though, but I'll still probably put him as number two. Unfortunately, I would not support two candidates from the north because, and I put it in my book, I'm not ashamed to say it, I believe in rotation of power in Nigeria. Every country is different. If a northerner, a Fulani has ruled Nigeria for 8 years, I think it's only fair the power should shift back to the south. It's the way to maintain peace in Nigeria. If we consider security as very important, then we should be fair. Now, we can talk about Southeast, South. That's probably a little bit more complex, but let's start with the basic principle of keeping to promises and letting power shift from south to north, from north to south. So, despite the fact that I think these two northern politicians speak quite okay in terms, one of them discusses solution, and the other one is just talks like a smart person. I apart from disagreeing with the solution, and I don't want to talk about corruption today because all of them are, and there's no reason to debate that today. Uh, you know, but I think we should not be ashamed to talk about rotation of power. I think power needs to shift to the south. People will say, "Oh, how does that relate to competence?" Well, there are lots of competent people all around Nigeria. When it's time for power to shift back to the north, there are many competent people in the north. So that's why in this election, I think a southern candidate should win. I think both the north and the south should. That's my personal opinion. I think voters in the north and south should consider peace, peaceful coexistence in Nigeria, and uh, vote for a southern president. Now, I don't want to talk between the two candidates in the south today. Maybe if I get a chance to discuss again, uh, I think I can talk about that. But I want to move on to. But I'm clearly saying that I will support a southern candidate in forthcoming election. That's either Peter Obi or Bola Tinubu. Now, I want to talk about the ongoing um, retrenchments or layoffs in the tech space across the world, and talk a little bit about Nigeria. Uh, Especially vis-a-vis our expectations when a new leader wins election. My position is that Nigeria is going to experience its share. There'll be layoffs this year, especially amongst the not traditional um powerhouses. Um, we should expect that, but I think the country needs to prepare for that. Personally, my view is that we need to retrain our people. We need to prepare for layoffs. And how do we prepare? I think it's important to think about new skills that'll be required. I think we should train our people. In my company, Delon, one of the things we're trying to do is to review our training plans, to revise based on what we believe will become more necessary. I think it's important for us as a nation to train low skill workers. High skilled workers will always find a way around. There'll be layoffs, but they will be able to switch. Many of them will travel, will relocate out of Nigeria. But it's time for us to train low skilled workers. And that's, if there's one thing I think we need to start talking about, especially with our politicians, my view is that we need to be asking about how are we going to develop our human capacity. Now, health is important, fixing it, but how do we develop human capacity? I'm talking about people that have even graduated out of school. Now, it's important to fix education, but what do we do after school? I think NYC period, that 1 year, is probably the best time that governments can work with young people, young educated people. I support the NYC. I believe it should continue. I'm not amongst those people that believe it should end because a lot of people love it. A lot of people enjoy the income, the little income. But I think it's important to begin to use our NYC to train people. State government, NYC, federal government. I think it's important to use that 1 year to train our people and prepare for what is coming. Now, we shouldn't train them for the West. Now, we can't afford to train them to become accessible to England or to the United States or Canada. Anybody that wants to relocate should make his own personal investments or commitment. But I think government need to facilitate, help to train people for the Nigerian market. In subsequent videos, I will be talking about specific areas that I think government needs to focus on. But today, I just want to address that single area of training NYC people. It's not just about the specific skills, but also reorientating them. My experience with NYC is that a lot of them, unfortunately, are not ready to think about the future until 1 or 2 months to the end of the NYC. So they spend the first 6 to 10 months uh, forgetting that this NYC is going to end in 1 year. And I think it's important for government to deliberately provide training, upskilling services to, to NYC across Nigeria to prepare them for the market. Especially now that we know there will be layoffs, people will continue to relocate. But it's important for us to train our people. That's all I want to talk about today. I think we should talk about it. We should ask our politicians, do you, what are you going to do to train people? And I think NYC is a good time. That's not the only, I've talked about training artisans, I've talked about training other low skilled workers. But today I just want to talk about NYC. I think it's important for us to find ways that personally, in my company, we have a commitment to doing that. We hire several NYC people. I think we hire a lot of NYC, and our focus is to train. We push hard. We try to train them. Some of them we don't even hire, but we just provide training. That's Delon Jobs believes. I've always believed that it's not just we need to do much more than providing enterprise training to the big banks and so on. We need to find ways to train individuals. I hope many small companies are doing the same, but ultimately, I'm using this medium to challenge people to ask to make this an issue. Anytime we get a chance to ask questions or to push our presidential candidates, our governorship candidates, to ask them how do they intend to provide upskilling, human capital development, training to NYC people as well as the low skilled workers. I think that'll be all for today. Uh, I'll be talking about specific areas of training that I think people should focus on this year because I think it's not gonna. I don't see this year. I think this year is not gonna grow like we've experienced in the last few years. Especially Lagos has experienced significant growth. I don't mean Nigeria as a whole, but Lagos has experienced a lot of growth in the last few years. I don't see that happening in 2023. But I think the more important thing is to retrain ourselves, get our people ready uh, for the emerging solutions, emerging services that will create employment later in the year. Until I come your way again, I wish you a blessed week.